Hi guys, and welcome back to what is another episode of Rebuilding Wimbledon, of course, but it's something a little bit different. And if you are enjoying or do enjoy these sort of analysis videos, be sure to drop a like on the video, because the last one, it didn't seem to go down particularly well with people, and I'm not really sure why, to be honest. And, you know, I'm not going to keep doing them if people aren't really interested in them, because it takes quite a long time to do, as you can tell from the fact that the videos are usually like 30-40 minutes long, and that's the edited version. So I decided to start off on the player stats page, because again, I'm adding more stuff to these as I go. Appearances is irrelevant, but the number of games won. Now, I was wondering if we'd have any players in this one, but unfortunately it turns out that we do not have any in the top 20 there. Games lost, hopefully we don't have any in there. That would be a bit bad. Yellow cards, unfortunately we do have quite a few in there, but still not towards the very top. Only 2 red cards this year, so we've not got anyone like Fuentes that's getting himself sent off 5 times a season. That would be really bad. Man of the match awards, Duarte's in there with 5 though, which is nice to see. I'm sure Everton should be in there as well, but he isn't. Distance covered overall is not really what I'm interested in. Over the 90 minutes, we've got no one that's really on there at all, actually. Look at the amount of distance that Bellerin covers. It's mental. Average rating overall, well, Ramselaar's actually done okay. He's the 17th best in the league, and Manquillo's in there too, which is nice and solid. Top goal scorer, of course, Fabio's in there as well, which is nice to see. Shots on target overall, Fabio's up there as well, with Oxlade-Chamberlain very, very high up there. Team goals, I don't really know what that means. I assume that's like being on the pitch during a goal or something. But there you go, Ramselaar and Everton are right up there. Number of penalties, Cresswell is the best penalty record in the league. Only 62%, but we've won 8 penalties this year, and he's scored 5 of them, which is decent. Assists-wise, Everton actually had the 3rd most in the entire division, which is brilliant, and I want him to try and win that next year. Key passes, Ramselaar's right up there with Manquillo, interestingly. Pass completion, I probably found we won't have anyone on that one at all. Cross completion, we should have some players there. Cresswell, 23% cross completion and 21 for Manquillo. That is solid as Roxy's. Defensively, team conceded. We should have some... Oh, no, maybe not. Not quite. We're not quite there yet. Tackles per game, and again, we're not on that one either. Number of mistakes, I'd like to think we're not on there. No, we're not, which is good. Key tackles, I feel like we probably are. Planish, though, right up there as well, along with Brian Gomez. It's good that they're making a lot of key tackles. Key headers, probably not as many, because we don't win. We don't have as many headers, but I'm pretty certain we should be up here quite nicely on this one too, which is good. As for goalkeeping, number of clean sheets, 18 for David De Gea. Langura made 6, and Ribeiro had 5, and that says a lot. But anyway, let's move on to the team stats. Average possession, we are leading the way by more than, just over, well, nearly 2%, and that says a lot for me. The number of penalties, we've actually had the most with 9, which is 3 more than anyone else, so I guess it makes up for the free kick situation. Number of headers won, we're actually fairly low, but when you look at the ratio of headers won, we're into the top 6. Now, we were actually higher than that earlier in the year. Yellow cards, we're 3rd this year. We've certainly had less yellows than last year. We had over 100 last year, so we've definitely toned it down. Red cards as well, only 3, and 2 of those were in 2 games in a row, remember? So again, not too bad. Most games won in a row. That sort of stuff isn't really that important, to be honest. Attacking, though, goals scored, we've got the joint 3rd best attack in the league, and that to me is progress. We're sort of on a par with some of the really big sides in there. Cross completion, we're 3rd best with 17%. It was higher earlier in the year, but that's still really good for me. I'm pleased with that. Crosses completed were a little bit lower. Goals from corners, we've got 9, and Man United have 11, and I don't know if anyone's got none, but no one has none, which is good. Goals from direct free kicks, right, there's been a few more. So 1, 2, 3. There's been 7 free kicks scored in the entire season. Still feels a little bit low for me. Goals from indirect free kicks, though, we are dominating that one and leading the way, which is nice. Pass completion, we're 4th on that one with 76%. United are still head and shoulders above the rest, but Fulham are looking good too. Shots on target ratio, this one we have got a 3% bonus on everybody else, and that to me is a massively telling stat, because to me that says that we're getting in positions and we're actually being quite clinical with our chances, or at least putting the shots on target, which is nice. Number of shots on target, we aren't far off the top of that one either. We're drawing a lot of fouls too, which is always very nice. Dribbles per game, we're probably fairly high on that one as well with 21. Defensively, we're 8th best defence in the league, so I would like that to be a little bit higher, but still, we've conceded 50 goals in the league this year. What we need to do is make that jump up there to a sort of only conceding just over 40 in the league. That's kind of where we need to make that step. Conceded from corners, we conceded 2, which is so much better than it has been. 9 for West Brom. And conceding from direct free kicks, in theory, we should be right at the very bottom with 2, because we actually conceded 2 free kicks this year. Clean sheets, we're doing okay on that. We've had 11, which is certainly a lot better than it used to be. Fouls made, we're number 2, but Chelsea are far and away in front. They're a dirty, dirty bunch, aren't they? Jesus. Tackles won ratio, we're dominating. Well, not dominating, but we're leading the way on tackles won, which is nice to see. As for average attendances, is irrelevant, but the capacity-wise, us and Watford dominating that one as well. Stadium sellouts, we've had 10 compared to anyone else. Ours will, of course, improve soon as well. Interestingly, we didn't have the lowest attendance, which is surprising, because how? Net transfer spend, we're actually not too bad on that one. And as for the salary per annum, as you can see, we're starting to catch up with some teams now. Blackburn and Burnley were, well, Blackburn were miles behind, but we ourselves have started to bridge the gap, but we're still sort of 10 million behind those teams. And I think next year, genuinely, we will still be one of the favourites for sort of 15th, 16th place. I genuinely think so. Also, I just realised I didn't actually have a look at the expectations and, of course, the transfer budget for next season, so we'll go do that now. In case you're wondering, Bart Ramselaar did win Fans Player of the Season. Sam Farmer did win Goal of the Season for that lovely little strike. Cresswell was the signing of the year, apparently, and Bart Ramselaar was the Young Player of the Season, despite being 24. So that's an interesting one. Right then, as you can see, we've been given 42.55 million in the bank for transfers. So, but some of that, of course, was on the back of what we had last year. But still, that's a decent amount to work with. So hopefully, once we've had a look at the squad, we should be able to see what kind of areas we need to strengthen in. As you can see, Bournemouth were promoted. We're going to be moving the stadium up by 8,000 seats. That's additional plans, I think. Upgrade training facilities again, which is great. Youth category goes up as well, which is really, really good. Anyway, let's take a look at the actual players now that we know how much money we've got to spend. So I wanted to start with goalkeepers, just straight off the bat, basically, because we're going to try and compare the two, which is going to be a little difficult, but still, we're going to try and compare them in the best ways that we can. So firstly, as you can see, average rating, Langura has just had a better average rating. Now, they haven't quite played the same number of games, but for the most part, they've got very similar amount of games played. So let's just remove these and see. So he got 6 clean sheets of his 24 matches, a 67% save completion. Not save completion, you know what I mean, which is not that good at all, considering last year his was 76. So that's come down a lot. And that is an area that perhaps we should look at, maybe getting another goalkeeper in, maybe getting rid of Ribeiro in the summer, bringing in a more experienced but good, better goalkeeper, and keeping Langura as the backup for a little bit longer, because I feel like the transition is a little too early, and we're starting to slip in terms of some of those goals conceded as well. So that's an area I'm desperately looking at. His saves, he still holds more, which is good, than he parries, which is always nice, but still, that's the sort of the main area I'm very interested in looking at, basically. So let's just compare that to Langura and see how he stacks up in that area. So he's got a 71% save completion, or save, you know what I mean. He, again, holds more than he parries, which is nice to see. He's got 8 clean sheets in 22 matches, which is a much better ratio, so to speak, than 6 in 24. It's certainly vastly improved. 71% save rating is much better for me, and I think, like, maybe he's good enough, maybe not. I just wonder, maybe another year and he could boost that up to sort of 74, but maybe we just need a really solid keeper at the back line for us next year, with Langura as his understudy again for another season. That's my plan. I think I'm going to go out and get a good goalkeeper if I can find one. That's going to be the plan, guys. So that's the first sort of piece of decision making I've done so far. Let's take a little look at centre backs. Right then, so centre backs. Now we used 3, but Bernardo played a few times as well, so we'll still include him in this. So key things to note here is that, well, mistakes leading to goal, Brian Gomez made 6, which is actually quite a lot. Let's not beat around the bush. That is quite a large amount. When you look at Leonard Planic, who played the same number of games and actually made 3 more appearances off the bench, only made 1 in that entire time. So Gomez, I like him, and I think perhaps maybe he made those mistakes playing as a fullback. We'll just take a quick gander at him and see if that is the case, or see if we can ascertain whether that was the case or not. He actually played fairly well playing in all of the positions. He actually played better when he was playing in his fullback roles this year, which is interesting. But I just think that perhaps he's a very flashy player. So, like, he reminds me of a David Luiz type of player. He's got a lot of good ability in a lot of areas, but sometimes he can just be a little bit let down by his concentration at times. And that's an area that perhaps we certainly need to be able to compensate for. But I wonder if just getting... What's his concentration like? It's actually not bad. I just wonder if over time he'll improve in that area. But it's good to see that Planic is looking very much a solid player this year. Cross completion is irrelevant for centre-backs. Goals. Planic has 4 goals as well, and 2 assists, which is fantastic. Dribbles per game. Gomez makes a few more dribbles, but again, that could have been because of his position as a right back a lot of the time, or left back rather. Pass completion, it's around about the same amount, 75%, 74%, and 73% for Planic. So interesting, considering he's got decent passing, his pass completion is not that bad. But if I had to guess, I'd say he's probably made more key passes. As for tackles per game, Gomez has now started to dominate that one with 5.41, and I like that from a player. Planic is the second best, and Anderson has now slipped to number 3 on that one, which makes sense because he is our third choice player now. So I guess that does make a lot of sense. But looking at the tackle ratio, this is an area I'm really pleased with. Planic, 89%, Anderson, 89% tackles won. Planic is a monster in the tackle, and to get that, I think next year, if he continues to develop, we could see that above 90. And for me, that is world class. That's what I want. Gomez, still 86 for me. It's still very, very good. I'm pleased with 86, but I'd still like to see maybe a tiny bit higher percentage of them won, considering he does win a lot of tackles overall. Maybe that's just because he's played more, I don't know. As for key tackles, he does lead the way on that one, but only slightly over Nenad Planic. And Anderson, to be fair, has won a lot more key tackles despite playing less. So that's an interesting, certainly thing to note, if nothing else. Average rating-wise, they've all done relatively well. They've all averaged above 7, but Gomez, again, has been the standout one in that area. Distance covered, again, he's been the one, but again, that could be affected by his playing at different roles. Games won, Planic and Gomez very, very tight on that one, and so that's our main partnership, so that makes sense as well. We've won a lot of games with Bernardo in, but I just feel like it's not enough games for us to actually be able to tell. Headers won. Brian Gomez, 87% header won ratio, and that is a big one for me. Planic and Anderson are around a decent level. Anderson at 80 is fine. Planic not winning enough. I still wish he would win a few more headers for us. That's an area we need to look at as well. But Gomez, 87% of his headers won is huge. And frankly, I think the partnership of him and Planic actually works quite well, because Gomez wins the headers, but Planic is sort of... I actually don't know. Like, Planic can win balls on the ground and Gomez is better in the air, and it kind of just works quite nicely, I think. We've got a decent partnership between them. Number of key headers... Planic again takes a little dive on that one, but Mark Anderson, he does a lot of key events, which for me implies it's almost last ditch with his key tackles and key headers. So he's good at that last ditch defending, but it feels like he sometimes lets himself get into those positions as well. Key passes, Brian Gomez has 28, but then again, I think, again, because he's playing at fullback, sometimes could be slightly misconstrued. Doesn't have that many more mistakes than Planic, but some of them have led to goals. Maybe that's just bad luck, maybe it's the quality of the mistake that could be a problem there. Pass completed over that time as well is vastly higher, and his interceptions... well, I mean, nearly 500 interceptions this year. So Planic and Gomez looking good. That's what I will say about them. They are looking very, very nice. With Anderson as a third player in there. Bernardo is available too. And I think that with Bonnie, I might look to bring in another high potential young centre-back, but I don't think we need to rock the boat with the partnership. I think Gomez and Planic do a seriously good job. And I think as they age, they will get more experience. And I think they'll only get better rather than worse in these situations. With Anderson as a backup as well, I think Bonnie is available too. Eventually, and he'll improve over the next couple of seasons, and I want to bring in maybe one young centre-back as well, another type of Bonnie type of player. That's my first sort of decision there. We're going to look at fullbacks now. So, fullbacks. Now, we're going to ignore Brian Gomez for this one, though he has played there a few times. The main ones we're interested in here is... well, someone did tell me how you can get rid of these ones. I think you can actually... there we go. That's how we do it. Right, so yeah, Gomez... and, well, it's basically between Manquillo and Cresswell. The other two have barely played. It's just looking at whether they've done a good enough job. 2 mistakes leading to goals and 1 mistake leading to goals. It's still not awful. I would have liked it a little bit less, but it's still not exactly not awful. But what I would say is this. Both of them have cross completion of above 20, and that is delightful. And it shows in the fact that they've both got 9 league assists each. That is astonishingly good. And Cresswell has just been probably one of my player of the season, Aaron Cresswell. But both of them are perfect. And I actually think that those two could carry on for a couple more seasons yet. But I do want to look at young sort of replacements for them, because if you look at what we've actually got, Kim Dong-hwan, Fuentes, there's not a lot really backing them up. And I want to see if we can bring in some youngsters. This is the great thing. I'm now in a position where I'm actually happy with our starting 11 in these areas. And I'm just looking to strengthen with some youngsters. So we're looking at a centre-back and maybe actually a right and left-back of high potential would be quite nice to bring in as well. Dribbles per game. Manquillo slightly outdoes him, and actually Manquillo has a slightly better pass completion too, which is interesting. Actually wins more tackles too, so as an all-round player, Manquillo is probably slightly better, and that's interesting to note because he's got a worse cross completion. Maybe he just puts more crosses in. Tackles won, again, 86% tackle. Manquillo is a monster. He's the best right-back we've had, and I think that he's actually a better player than Cresswell in some respects just because of that. Wins more key tackles. They've both played about the same minutes on the pitch, which means we can really compare these two very, very accurately. Assists per 90 minutes, it's very, very tight, but Manquillo just slightly edges it. Minutes per goal, obviously only Cresswell score, but that's fine. They run about the same amount. Games won. Now, this is what I would say. Cresswell has won more games than Manquillo. And I wonder why that is, considering Manquillo is actually a better player, probably in some respects. But maybe Cresswell's goals contribute to that. When he plays, he scores when he takes those penalties. So maybe that's sort of a slightly false area there. He's even better in the air. He's 80, sorry, not 80, bloody hell, that'd be impressive. With his 62% headers won, which is decent for a fullback. I'd like it above 50 if I can for a fullback. And he's winning that comfortably. But he actually has won less key headers, which is surprising. Key passes, Manquillo is the king of key passes, but he's not exactly far behind. He's made more mistakes than Manquillo too. So that's something to look at. But And they've both got very, very good pass completion. The amount of passes per game, nearly 50 each. And Manquillo's made some more interceptions. So I think of the two, Cresswell is probably slightly more creative and does deliver some slightly better passes. But at the same time, Manquillo's really stepping it up and is racking up some ridiculously good stats for a right back. And that's very, very good. And I actually think of the two, he's still slightly better. But Cresswell is still a very, very good player. And it's basically what we're here deciding is which one of the two is the better player rather than whether either of them need replacing it. I think at the moment they are just fine. But I'm going to look for some high potential young players for their roles. Anyway, let's take a little look at the midfielders. Decided to start with wingers because why not? We've actually got quite a few, but we're going to ignore Schala and Silva, and we're going to actually, well, no, we'll keep Baltam in here for now. Aga's played a few games, so mistakes leading to goals. Ramselaar and Kano have played one each. Now we're going to ignore Ramselaar actually because he basically, as far as I know, didn't actually play out on the wing at all for us this year. That's the wrong button. Didn't actually play out on there at all for us this year. Oh no, he played there once and played poorly. So we'll ignore him in this particular situation. So Carlo's the only one that's actually made a mistake leading to a goal. Cross completion is key here. Schala has 30%, but again, he's not played that much. So yeah. Now our fullbacks. This is interesting. Tobias Aga hasn't played that much, so again, we'll kind of leave him out for now. Everton with 16%, Cleverly again with 15% is still better than Fernando Cano, interestingly. Baltam only has 11%, but then he doesn't have as good crossing, so we can kind of sort of see why that one is the case. But again, you can still see why Cleverly has his purposes in this team. He's only made 20 substitute appearances, but he's still got a goal and 3 assists. Not too bad. He's a useful utility man, but if we get a load of money from him in the summer, then I'll be very, very happy. Goals from those positions, Everton is the man. Although, frankly, Carno's contributed with 5 league goals. 3 assists, that's the area. He's not been as creative as Everton with his 13 league assists, which is an astonishingly good amount. And I think that partly comes from the fact that Everton is an astonishingly good dribbler. He's not quite as good as Tobias Aga, but he's still very, very good. And he's above 4, which is fine by me. I want someone on both wings that can do that. That's what I really, really want. Pass completion, Ramselaar is, of course, key, but we're ignoring that one. Everton, 75. They're around about 75, 73. It's okay. I'd like to see it pushed maybe above 75 for all of them would be ideal, but it's fine by me for now. Now, interestingly, again, Tom Cleverley wins a lot of tackles as well because he is a very defensive type of player. And despite Baltam's good tackling, he hasn't actually won that many tackles, but I feel like he will get better with age, basically, like a fine wine. Tackles ratio, that's what we were looking at anyway, wasn't it? Oh, no, it wasn't. Sorry. 76% won for Everton is actually not bad. Carno, again, those two are sort of the key for that. And Cleverley might win a few tackles, but it doesn't win overall that many, which is interesting. Key tackles, again, it's those two standing out there doing their jobs. Shots on target, Everton as well. Something that really stands out for me is that he hits way more shots on target. No, he doesn't. Sorry, what am I talking about? Yes, he does. Wait. No, he doesn't. That's the thing. Sorry, that's very, very strange. Carno, Baltam and Cleverley actually hit way more shots on target than Everton, and even though he's set to shoot less, but he does score a lot, so maybe he just shoots more, which would be certainly an interesting fact. He's definitely up there as the best one in that sense, that's for sure. Distance covered, it's interestingly Tom Cleverley, but again, that's going to be averaged out because of that, so we'll kind of take that one out for now. Games won, well, Cleverley's done okay, but again, we're looking at these two, and it's around about 50%, and it's not too bad, but I'd like to see it a little bit higher. Headers won, Everton wins. He's got a decent amount of heading. I mean, look at that. 60% header ratio is much, much better than the likes of Aga, particularly on that wing. Carno is only 40, Cleverley 38, Baltam 44, which is better at least. But Everton, you can see why he stands out and why I want a player like him on the other wing, really. Key headers, again, he's monstrous on that one. Key passes, he stands out head and shoulders above the rest. He's got 3 times the number of key passes of Kano. Baltam made 15 in the 8 games he played, which I suppose if you... he'd be about the same as Carno if he'd continued that. Mistakes, Carno, Everton doesn't even make that many mistakes as well, which is why he's such a good player. Passes completed, again, decent. It's sort of around about the same as everyone else, really. But interceptions, again, he's made a few of those too, would you look at it? Look at that. Everton is just a very good player. And I think one of the areas I really do want to try and find someone for, a sort of a player for now over the summer, is that left side. Because I feel like we need to bring in, even if we have to splash 20 million on someone, I feel like that's the final piece in the jigsaw, so to speak, of building this team up. Obviously, we need a prolific striker, but I feel like we're getting there with that as well. So I think, so far, we want a goalkeeper, an experienced goalkeeper, youngsters for all of our backwards positions, and then a left-sided player, very, very key. Left-sided player, very important. Let's take a look at the centre mid. Okay, so there's a lot of players that have played in these roles, and it's going to be varying depending on kind of how we want to use them. Mistakes leading to goals, firstly. Ramselaar's made 1, And that's about it, really. The others have been very, very solid, which is nice to see. Now, we're not really that bothered about cross completion because they've barely played out wide, most of them. So Carlos has got 3 goals in 15 appearances, and Sam Farmer's actually got 3 in 34. I want to see a bit more from Carlos, but I'm hoping over a full season he can deliver a bit more for us. Masek's done okay as well. Ramslar's been great for the assist, but only the 1 goal this year. Man of the match he's picked up a few of those as well. Dribbling, though, it's nice to see Carlos does have at least a bit of a dribble, a bit like how Duarte did, so that's not too bad. I'd be pretty pleased with that overall as well. Now, pass completion here, I would love to get us a player that can get above 80 on that one. I really, really would. Ramslar's nearly there with 79. Masek's up there with 78. But then Farmer 77 is not bad. Carlos 75, but then he is in a more advanced position quite often. So I want to have a centre mid that's going to get us that sort of 80-82% pass completion. I really, really do. Tackles. Sam Farmer, 5.161 per game, no problem there. Masek, as you can see, he stands out so much more than Ramselaar. He wins more than a tackle extra per game when he plays in that role, and that is such an important thing. Key tackles, again, he's only played 8 times, but he's made 2 key tackles to Ramselaar's 1, and that says a lot about him as well. He does certainly get into good positions to win those tackles. And most importantly there, compared to Ramselaar, 68% to 80% tackles won. And bear in mind, Masek predominantly plays in a centre midfield role. Okay, yeah, for once or twice he has been used in place of Farmer, who's got 82%, and that to me is just fine. I'd like to maybe see him boost it to 85 as he improves a little bit, but I'm still pretty pleased with that. And I don't see any reason to sort of rock the boat in that one. I think Farmer is going to be our defensive midfield general for quite some time, although we do need a second choice in that role, and that's something I intend to look at in the summer as well. A new defensive midfielder, a very, very young one with huge potential that can just back up Farmer when we need him to, because I don't want to bring in someone who's going to replace Sam Farmer. He's just good. You know, he's just a good player in general. So I don't want to rock the boat on that one. And in the centre, Ramselaar is great, and we've got Masek in there too as a backup, so I'm pretty pleased with the depth in that area of the pitch. Shots on target, cleverly, not really that important for these players. I'm not super bothered on their shots on target percentages on that one, really. Average rating, Ramselaar is the king, but Carlos has done okay. He's got a decent rating in the games he's played, which if nothing else is something to say. Games won, it should already really be around about 50%. Masek's won a few less, but I think that's interesting actually. And Carlos has only won 33% of his matches, but that might be because he came in at a poor time. But that will be an interesting one to keep an eye on actually, because if that drops a little bit low next year, we may have to look at maybe he's the reason for that. Headers won. Ramselaar wins a lot of headers, so does Masek. And Farmer actually wins 52% of his headers for a very, very short player. It's not bad, considering Carlos only has 32. So some of his sort of physical stats, I just wonder if they're a little bit wanton. Yeah, jumping reach is poor, as is his heading. So that's interesting, actually, that he's got decent... So he's not even got that great tackling. So I wonder, actually, if that's a... I think perhaps we should... then again, he's not really going to be expected to win too many headers. I don't know what Duarte was like in that area, to be honest. Key headers... Sam Farmer, 22 key headers. Then again, he's always further back. Key passes, Ramselaar was always going to dominate that one, but it's nice to see that Carlos actually picked up 80 in 15 games, which means, in theory, if you extrapolate that out, he'd have been looking at a very similar amount to Ramselaar over the full season, which is nice. Mistakes-wise as well, Ramselaar and Farmer have made a relatively even number of mistakes. Carno, again, I feel that if Carlos... he would probably be about the same as all of the rest of them. Masek probably would again be around about the same. Passes completed over the 90 minutes. Ramselaar is the king again, but Carlos has done decently. Interceptions, again, Ramselaar and Farmer, kings of that. So centre mids, I'm looking for a backup player for Sam Farmer, a young high potential player. It's great. I love looking for the young high potential players. I'm hoping that we'll actually be able to find someone, because I really struggled in January. Apart from Van den Heuvel, I managed to really struggle to find any of those sort of 5-star potential players. It was really, really difficult. So let's take a final look at the strikers. So when it comes to the strikers, we're really only looking at Fabio, Kirk, Marley and Murphy, but Radek Marley's only played 3 times, 3 starts and 10 off the bench. So looking at goals, basically, let's just look at the cold hard facts at goals. Fabio, 20 goals in 41 games. It's not bad. It's solid. If nothing else, it is solid. But I want sort of 25, 26 out of him next year. I want to see him really hit the ground running. He scored 2 hat-tricks this year. I just want a little bit more consistency out of him. Now remember, I'm not going to go out and sign another striker in the summer, because we do have Mateus coming in, and that will take our tally of strikers to 5 with Marley. Although if Marley was to leave and I was to receive a decent bid for him, I might be tempted to sell and try and invest in another one. I'm not entirely sure, because the thing is, at the moment, Fabio's our one sort of proven striker. Murphy and Kirk are sort of still relatively youngsters that are going to be inconsistent, basically, until they get their real chance to find their feet. They're going to be inconsistent. So maybe looking for another striker in the summer, but I don't want to splash all our budget on it because I don't think it's the most important thing. We still scored 70 times in the league this year, so clearly goal scoring is not a problem for us, and I think there's other areas that would be better invested in. Assist wise, 4 for Fabio as well, which is very, very nice to see. Dribbles per game, Murphy is so good at dribbling, he really is, and I think that kind of really helps when he comes on against tired legs, because he can take on players, and I might actually have him set to dribble more with our instructions. I might set an instruction just for him to have him dribble more. I don't know whether we actually already have that in the team. Let's just quickly take a little look at that part of the team. Just put Murphy in and just see what that actually means. We would be set to dribble more already, because you can't change it, because of course you can't. So yeah, that would explain why he does so well when he plays, but he's done well off the bench, but he just doesn't seem to have what it takes to start games and score goals for us. You know, every goal I think he scored for us last season was off the bench, and this year I basically used him mostly as a substitute, but he did score five goals in 6 substitute appearances, which is very, very good. Pass completion, Adam Kirk, 80%. He's very good at linking the play up. Fabio is high too. Colin Murphy is the only one that really falls down on that one, but again, that could just be from the lack of game time that we're actually seeing from him. Tackles 1 per game, Fabio's up there with Kirk. Murphy has not actually won a single tackle the entire season, so that's a little bit skewed on that one, but Kirk again is doing well up there. Shots on target, now this is what I do like, 86% on target. Fabio and Kirk are above 50%, which is fine, because remember, the league average, we have the best shots on target ratio in the league, which is 50 compared to 47 with the next nearest. So as long as they're above that, I'm pretty pleased, frankly. Murphy's so clinical when he's on the pitch, though. I just really want to keep using him as a substitute, frankly. Games 1, Marley and Murphy, interestingly, have a higher ratio than these two, but again, they've not played enough for me to really take that into account. Headers 1, it's interesting to see that Marley, once again, only 32% of his headers have actually been won. He's supposed to be a big target man type of player, and Fabio out headers him every single year, and key headers as well, 42. So I think Marley could be not long for this team. I just don't think, I might actually think about moving him on in the summer, because I just don't think he's cut out, and I don't think he's going to improve enough to be a real player for us. Key passes, Fabio with 130 really does link things up very, very nicely, and you've got to say that if Adam Kirk was given a full season of starts up there, he'd probably be up there as well, so I'm starting to prefer him as well as a sort of backup player. And Fabio made a decent number of mistakes as well, but then Kirk would have made more over a full season, as would Marley, because he only got he literally got 4 mistakes in 3 starts, but 10 substitute appearances as well, of course. So passes completed per game, Fabio is the king of that with his interceptions as well. So here's what I have ascertained from looking at these stats, and I know this one's slightly quicker as a run through, but I just feel like I was dwelling a little bit too much and just babbling sometimes when perhaps it just needed to be looked at. I've realised I've still got it on the defenders one. I wonder if I could put this on, whether that will add any extra ones that we can maybe have a little look at. I always forget to do that. Headers 1 per 90 minutes. It doesn't really add a great deal to it, but there's some extra stats if you're interested. People keep asking me, will I put these on the Steam Workshop? I will get round to doing it. It's just that I can never bloody find the files. And actually, I won't put it on the Steam Workshop because I don't put stuff on there, but I put it on my website. I will get round to doing it, I promise. It's been so hectic lately. I know it doesn't take that long, but when it's on my website, I do actually have to build a WordPress post and set up all the tags and stuff, and it does take a little bit longer than you'd think. But yeah, so what we're going to do, this is what I'm thinking for the summer. So goalkeeper, experienced player, get rid of Ribeiro. We're going to go with young high potential players for left back, right back, if we can get one for both that'd be even better, and centre back. That's the plan. So we should be able to pick those up for a couple of million here and there if we do it from the right countries. I'm particularly looking at Eastern Europe here, guys, and Scandinavia if we can. Africa I'm not so enthralled with in this save just because of the work permit problems. Defensive midfielder, I want a young high potential backup for Sam Farmer that can come in and play when he needs a rest or is injured or international duty, as he seems to do. I'm going to go with a left-sided player that's going to be straight into the team. I want Everton of the left wing. That's what we really, really want. Nothing in the middle because I feel we're pretty solid there. And on the right, we've got Everton and Egger. Everton and Egger is fairly solid. So, yeah, and then maybe a striker if I can move Marley on, but I don't want to blow the budget on it because you know strikers are expensive. I do have to look for English players as well, and I will if I can, but it's so difficult because they are so expensive, which is why I basically limit myself to one of them a year, and Shane Williams was last year's, and look how that turned out. But I think he could step up for us this year, you just don't know. So anyway, guys, if you've liked this little run through and some of the extra stats that we threw in at the start comparing us to the other teams in the league, then please do smash the like on the video. That would be magnificent. I'm not going to set a like target, but if you do or are enjoying these analysis videos, do let me know and I will continue to do them, because obviously if people aren't enjoying them, there's no point in me wasting an hour and a half doing the videos. So I will join you guys for tomorrow's episode. Hopefully will have gone out and been able to sign some of the types of players that we're actually looking for, but we just don't know. If anyone else becomes available that's just amazing, I will just pick them up, particularly if the deal is right. You know how it is. So expect us to maybe make a few sales in the summer as well, which is a rarity because I don't generally sell a lot of players because we've been trying to build the squad. But I think some of the dead wood is going to get shipped out this summer as well. So it's going to be a bumper packed, well-packed episode of transfer window goodies in the next one. So I will join you guys then. Thank you so much for watching this little analysis episode, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.